It's been more than a decade since Klonoa first appeared on the original PlayStation, and there have been a few games released throughout the series, but those are few and far between. But hopefully, this remake for the Nintendo Wii won't be the last we see of the cutesy character Klonoa. The story in Klonoa is pretty cool. For it being a platformer, I actually enjoyed the story, and there actually is a story that touches on some hard things like death and betrayal and stuff like that. You play as the main character, who is a hybrid between a cat and a rabbit. I'm not really sure what he is, but he's cute. Klonoa has these big, huge ears, and he wears this blue Pac-Man hat. Really cool character, very lovable. And he's basically minding his business one day when this magical, mysterious ring falls out of the sky, and he meets up with his sidekick that he's with throughout the entire game, whose name is Hupo. And they're just so happy-go-lucky, and soon after, it's not long before their happiness is shattered when Lord Gaudius, basically, he brings evil to Klonoa's town and all these kingdoms nearby. And he drops these, I know they're supposed to be evil monsters, but some of the monsters are still pretty cute. He drops these monsters into these kingdoms, and it's up to Klonoa and Hupo to basically get rid of all the evil and save all of these kingdoms. The gameplay in Klonoa is very simple. Basically, anyone can pick up and play it, and it's very accessible as well. You can play with your Wii remote horizontally. You can play with the Wii and the nunchuck, and you can also play with the classic controller, and finally you can play with the GameCube controller. So with all those options, you'll definitely be able to pick up one type of controller and have a blast with it. But I played with all the control types, and I actually enjoyed all of them, but I played majority of the game with the nunchuck and the Wii remote. So basically, what sets apart Klonoa from all the other platformers is the fact that you jump on your enemy, instead of jumping on your enemy's heads to get rid of them, you basically grab your enemy. Since Klonoa is equipped with this wind bullet ring, he grabs his enemies, and you use your enemies, you carry them on top of your head, and you use them to basically jump off of so you can get to higher plateaus. It's really cute, and it's a little bit different than what we're used to as far as Mario goes. You're always jumping on a Goomba's head or whatever the case may be, but in Klonoa you're doing the exact opposite. You use your enemies to turn switches on and turn switches off throughout the levels, and it's a really cool concept. The cool thing about Klonoa is that it's a 2D platformer, but then again it has a 3D twist. When you're walking along or running along, it looks very 2D, but then you'll come up to a windy road on a path, and it's a very linear game, and it turns instantly to 3D, and it's pretty cool looking. Really, once again, a really cool concept. As I said, the levels in Klonoa are very linear, but they're well done. It has great level design. I really enjoyed the levels. Even though it is a very linear game, there are a few nooks and crannies in there where you can find hidden objects. There's Easter eggs that you need an enemy in order to break the Easter eggs. There's a few hidden gems there, and there are some prisoners that are captured in these bubbles, and you need to pop those bubbles open. And they're not hard to find, but you're definitely rewarded for getting everything in the level. There are some light puzzles in here, nothing too hard, and that's probably one of my complaints about Klonoa. It's a very, very easy game. I wish that it was a little bit harder and add a little bit more challenge to it, but for the most part it's still fun to play through. And you'll come up every now and again to a part where you might have trouble platforming, jumping over certain enemies and stuff like that, but the boss battles are all relatively easy. The final one takes a little bit getting used to, but everything other than that is just far too easy. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Klonoa, this remake, looks beautiful. The animations look really good, and of course you have these beautiful, colorful worlds. Even when you're in a cave-like area, it still looks really good. It just looks amazing. Definitely amazing, especially for it to be a Nintendo Wii game. It just has this cutesy type of feel to it and very charismatic and just looks amazing. The sound is probably one of my favorite games, just because the soundtrack is so beautiful and very catchy tunes. You have all types of musical instruments in there, and it's very, very memorable music in this game. One thing that I didn't like too much was the fact that the voice acting, because there is voice acting in this game, even though there wasn't voice acting in the original PlayStation game. There's voice acting in this game, and it just sounds a little too kiddie. And Klonoa's voice and his sidekick's voice are both annoying, and it doesn't sound good. But I could have done without the voice acting, but then again, you can always turn the volume down and read the words that are on the screen. There isn't too much value in Klonoa. Unfortunately, you can beat the game in probably about 5 hours. There are 15 levels throughout the game, and it doesn't take long to get through them. Some levels are longer than others, but if you're a completionist, you can always go back and try to capture everything that's in the entire level, but still, that won't take time. Once you complete the game, you have the option, which is pretty cool, of changing. There's different costumes, so you can change Klonoa's outfits. You have a movie player where you can watch all of the cutscenes, which are actually done really well. Great cutscenes. And probably the best unlockable that you get once you complete the game is the reverse mode, which is where you play through all of the levels that all the stages that you played, but you're doing it in a mirror. It's almost like a mirror level, so you're doing it all backwards. And it's okay. It's not the best, but it has the most value as far as the unlockables go. So there you have it, guys. Review for Klonoa. It's a really, really fun 2D/3D platformer that takes it back to the old school days where platforming games were just great fun. It really holds up to the test of time with its simple gameplay, and it's so easy to just sit down and play a level and have fun with it. It looks amazing, and the soundtrack is phenomenal. So if you guys are interested in a platformer for your Nintendo Wii, the first thing that should come to mind is Klonoa, and my final score for the game is going to be an 8.5. I wish it was just a little bit longer, and but you can't knock it for being a great game, even though it is short.